This is Sky Blues Extra.
Hello and welcome to Sky Blues Extra Live, the show where we normally discuss a fixture of Coventry City after the game and talk about the football on show, but that's going to be pretty difficult today, isn't it, Dean?
Yeah, I'm angry, Dave, if I'm honest. The performance has angered me. It looked like Sheffield Wednesday were the team, potentially, that were on this unbeaten run. We looked down in the dumps.
Yeah.
You know, we were just void of any creativity, anything in that final third. It was gutless, it was toothless. Some of the performances, didn't even deserve to be of a League Two level, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm just really, really angry and disappointed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, first of all, what I'm going to get the Sky Blues Extra followers to do is, in one comment, sum up today's performance. In one comment, if you can, just sum up today's performance, what you thought about that game. Dean, in one word, what would yours be?
The clueless. Simple as that. It says a lot when you think the government have got a handle on the pandemic better than what we've showed today. They've got more of a clue what's going on with that. It was just
across
annoying.
The UK, which makes it even more of a difficult day, doesn't it, to take? But yeah, just looking at some of these comments, Ryan Evans, frustrating, I think is right. Spineless. I won't bring up some of the others.
But look at these comments, Dave, because we just come off this incredible run of form, and
you're only as good as your last game, though, Dean, aren't you?
You are. To be fair, we weren't that good against Huddersfield, but it's just the attitude. There was no positive attitude I felt there today. Going up against a Tony Pulis side, you know what you're going to get. He's boring. He's negative.
Yeah.
It's defence first attitude with him, and we've just fell into a trap. And it's so Coventry City to fall into a trap. I've been on about it all week on Twitter. Do not fall into their games and play their games, because that's what they'll do. They'll just soak and try and score a goal on from a set piece or a counter attack.
Yeah.
And we fell into it. We fell into the trap so easily, and it's so Coventry City, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, there's some comments that we're getting through about the pitch. The pitch really was awful, but we played football on the Tranmere pitch, which was awful, but it was dreadful, that playing surface, and you could see that from early on.
It's dreadful for both teams, though, Dave.
No, of course, but you could see that from early on that it was going to be a very, very difficult day for the Sky Blues to play their style of football, but we just didn't really turn up at all. It's one of those seasons where I think there's a lot of bad teams in the Championship, or we're just a very sort of astute team, if you like, and we've talked about it time and time again when we need superstars to step in and pick up a game that is rubbish by the scruff of the neck and go and win it, and that again didn't happen. I suppose the positives to take from the game, before we go through all of the negatives, was I felt Julian Da Costa looked decent on the ball at times. He looks strong, he looks athletic, he looks like he can get down the line and put a cross in. In terms of the sort of 5 minutes that he showed, it was streets ahead of unfortunately what Dabo done this afternoon, and also against Huddersfield, where he seems to be almost a former shadow of his former self. And of course Godden back when he came on, he reminded us, didn't he, that he can hold the ball up, he can flick it on, he's live in the box, and he can make things happen. And I think the only times we looked dangerous today was when Godden, had those little spells when he came on. But Biamu started the game fantastic. That one he got out of his feet, and he sort of tried to put it across goal, and Westwood saved. It started, and I thought, here we go. These don't look great, but it just from there on it just disappeared into the wilderness, didn't it?
They were the worst team we've played this season. There's no shadow of a doubt about that.
Hands down,
they were awful. They had nothing going for them.
Yeah.
And like you said, that first 20 minutes, maybe up to half an hour, I thought we've got a good opportunity here to take 3 points home. I think we started really, really brightly, but it's just like the confidence was zapped because we didn't take one of those chances.
Yeah.
It was gone. And to your earlier point about the teams around us, there's a handful of teams that are going to be around us in the division, and I don't think we've really tested them teams. Other than Rotherham, other than Wycombe, obviously we won both of those games, but we haven't tested anyone else around us. Sheffield Wednesday today, Huddersfield in the week, Derby, Luton.
Yeah.
These games, Forest, those teams that are going to be in and around us, we have not tested them.
Not
and
made
it shows,
a dent, have we? Yeah.
And it shows our inability to do that. I'll stay positive as much as the next guy, but okay, it's not all doom and gloom. We're still 6 points clear of the relegation zone, and we'd have taken that at Christmas. Of course we had, but we've had opportunities to make it even better, and it's so frustrating and so disappointing that we haven't taken those opportunities.
Dean, I'm going to bring in a few more comments here. First of all, I don't know what you think of this one. I've got to say, in my opinion, that's absolute rubbish. Because although it was a completely terrible ball by Wilson, you still got to defend a free kick. Defend it. You've got to get set up and defend it. He give a free kick away, but it's not like he's booted it in his own net. And people might be listening to me now and thinking, you'll defend Wilson down to the ground. Not about that. It was a free kick. It was a dead ball situation, and we didn't even get organised. You've got Bakayoko marking at the back post with what seemed no organisation at all. Argument to say if perhaps Ben Wilson sort of half came, but a header from 5 yards in, you're going to be pretty good to stop that. And I just think that it was always going to come. I could see that coming a mile off, and I think everyone else could.
Listen, the free kick happens. They happen all over the pitch, but it's what you do in dealing with that situation afterwards. So Wilson decides to come out, then stops. He's in absolute no man's land from there on in.
Yeah.
And he's stuck in two minds. He doesn't know what to do. And 9 times out of 10, the majority of the time is they're stuck in the mud and they're not going to be able to deal with the ball. Bakayoko's looking the wrong way.
Where's the chat, Dean?
He's done that twice. He's done that twice today. Bakayoko looking the wrong way. One, we had a really good opportunity going the other way, and he was looking the wrong way when the defender headed the ball. And there, he's not tracking back with his man. He's looking up the pitch. I don't know what you're doing. Just deal with that situation.
Yeah.
We've got so many big names there at the back and big voices that can deal with that, and we just haven't dealt with that. It's schoolboy stuff, I'm afraid.
Yeah, more comments. Let's bring these in here. Dean, your namesake here. I don't think Dabo and O'Hare have been the same since injury. I think O'Hare showed some glimpses today, actually, of some real quality.
He's done his general Callum O'Hare drift in, drift out of the game.
Yeah. No, well, this is it, isn't it? Possibly, in sparks, he was absolutely magnificent. In by and large, he was non-existent, and like a lot of the midfield, I actually think today would have been early doors, switch it to the one up top, and I can already hear people screaming probably at their screens. But I just think that it was so obvious we were overrun in midfield. It was always going to be difficult without Kelly and Hamer, but we were just completely overrun in midfield. They had acres, absolute acres. Barry Bannon, who it was dead on his feet at the end, looked like he went off with an injury. I'd probably say it was cramp. He'd done more running than any sort of 19-year-old on that pitch, and he controlled the whole game. We're talking about Barry Bannon.
The guy's on a Zimmer frame.
He controlled the whole midfield. Barry Bannon. No offence, great player, great left foot, but he just controlled a championship midfield game. I find it completely and utterly bizarre, if I'm honest, because he just had all the time in the world. He sprayed it round, he woke up willy balls there and there. It was just no pressure. So if that's going to happen, just cancel out that midfield. Bring that extra man in.
I've been calling for that the majority of this season. I'd say 14 out of the 20 games we've had, the midfield has been completely overrun. And okay, we're missing Hamer, we're missing Kelly, but still, we should be dealing with the situation. And if you're missing those two quality, like them, that caliber of player, then what do? You don't put another man up front. You put another man in the middle to help deal with the situation, because you're going to be overrun. It's as simple as that. I'd have happily taken a 0-0 draw there today. Yeah. Happily.
Max saying here that Sheaf is our best player. I mean, it's it's not the best of accolades in the world from today's game, I think. And I don't know if we've even put out a man of the match on Sky Blues Extra just yet, and I'm not sure we will. But Sheaf in parts, did some bits. I think McCallum, was positive at times going forward, but it's one of those games that it feels like more than a loss. You can take a loss. They happen. But it just feels like a very lacklustre performance. But I suppose we should bring Glenn in and get his thoughts on today's fixture.
Here he is. How's it going, Glenn?
Evening, lads. That was painfully predictable, wasn't it? Unfortunately,
I think it was. Yeah. I suppose. What positives do you take out of that, Glenn?
I think the positives I would take is we created chances. I think the negative is we don't take them, but the positive is at least we created a lot of chances today, some probably half chances. But I think there's always, no matter whether the team's in the rock bottom, there's always in the Championship a couple of quality players that if you give them a chance, they're going to do something to win the game. And numerous free kicks and corners, because he is probably one of the best dead ballers in the Championship. And we give a soft free kick away and get done, not marking a man. And Tony Pulis' side will be spot on set pieces and attacking them. So
in comparison,
you've got to
Glenn,
learn
set
your lesson.
pieces. In comparison, set pieces today, Glenn, we were very disappointing, weren't we, from dead ball situations? Do you think that was the lack of not having Hamer?
Yeah, but we had a few set pieces today from what I've heard. So, but yeah, Hamer. Problem is Hamer is turning into making us seem a one-man team. When he plays well, we play well. If he's not in the team, we don't, and that's the worry. And it's one of them. Robbins could have quite easily, as Dean said, shut the midfield up and look maybe last 20 minutes, bring the more attacking players on and look to nip the game, which would go a bit more gunno. And ultimately, it kind of backfired us on us because we lost Walker, and we've probably lost him for a couple of weeks by the sounds of it.
Possibly,
and then Alan probably didn't really do much. He obviously didn't want to put Shipley on. And if I was Wilbur Parker, I'd be a bit worried that Castaner gets in ahead of me.
I think it's
just
I think for that, if I was Robbins, I've looked at that. The pitch is awful. Sheffield Wednesday are, a bit of a brute. At times were brutish in their way that they played, and maybe he just thought it isn't the game for Will to make an impact. But yeah, when those three
I think the absolute opposite to that, Dave.
Well, when those three substitutes, were highlighted, I did think, are we going to see it? And we didn't, of course. Because
if you look at that first half an hour, what was the one thing that was beating Sheffield Wednesday? Pace.
Yeah.
They just couldn't deal with the small little triangles and someone nipping the ball away from them. They couldn't deal with O'Hare doing their slight turns on the ball and moving the ball away from them. They couldn't deal with that. I think Bapaga would have been the absolute perfect person to put into that situation. A raw talent, there's nothing to lose by having him in a match like that at all. The only thing you're going to get is positives and potentially something to gain from it.
Yeah.
I can't see how bringing Bakayoko into that type of match was going to provide stuff for us. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Obviously, we've got a bit of a break now, and then we take on Stoke, Glenn. As a lot of people are saying, it's a bit of a wake-up call. We're not sure on the complete fitness of Godden, but he's been out there today, and it looks like he's probably going to have to come back in, really, even if he plays 60, 70 minutes. What other changes would you make? A lot of people saying that Giles deserves his chance to come back into the fold, although McCallum's obviously keeping him out. What changes would you make against Stoke? And what sort of formation would you line up with?
I think Stoke tend to play wing back, so I think they go like a 3-4 off a main striker. So they go very similar to what we do. I think probably we try and match them up.
Yeah.
The only question mark is probably Dabo. I think in hindsight, maybe today was the game that we freshened it up a bit more. Giles, maybe even Shipley, a run out, and possibly pulled Walker, maybe O'Hare and a few of the others out the firing line and give them a rest. Because obviously we've got quite a hectic schedule coming up the next 3 games. Well, they've got probably a bigger
break than... Got a bigger break before the next game, haven't they? And before, the 26th. You'd think that today was the day where you've got to go sort of gung-ho, really, for it.
I just think the last couple of performances we've been a bit leggy, haven't we? I think that's the game where we probably haven't looked as consistent over than faded. Yeah, we faded a lot, whereas we used to be a team that would come on strong in games. And I think we look a bit leggy and tired. But you just don't. We built a lead up over the bottom 3. It would have been a massive chance to basically kill off Sheffield Wednesday today if we'd won, because I think that would have put us 18 points clear of them, which is pretty much as good as saying unless we do something car crash, we'd have been safe, and we'd probably been the same amount.
It's like we've basically gifted them 3 points there.
And then it's basically a one-team shootout, isn't it? Tough Forest around that. So it is a massive missed opportunity, but you don't want to go and throw it away by not getting positive results against Stoke, Preston and Millwall and go on a slide and undo all the hard work we've done on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it was predictable. It's golf. It was
one of
those, we do it.
Yeah,
the games
exactly.
We shouldn't win, we turn up and perform in.
Yeah.
I think we might have lost Glenn there.
Let's move on and we go on Stoke.
He's back.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. Well, it was bit like the performance today,
bit lackluster.
Glenn's performance and offer a sort of early one, but let's bring in some more comments. This is probably one that really hits home. What an awful news coming through, and let's hope that there's lots of content that we've got planned on SkyBluesExtra over the Christmas period, and let's hope that can bring some sort of cheer. We've got some great player podcasts, both former and current, and they'll be out over the Christmas period that you'll be able to enjoy. But yeah, what rubbish news coming through from there. Mark says he agrees that Will should have been given game time, much needed experience for the lad. We've got here Saturday, Wilson, Da Costa, Ostergaard, McFadzean. Is this the team, Danny, I presume, that you would like to see against Stoke? So Wilson, Da Costa, Ostergaard, McFadzean, Hyam, Giles, Sheaf, Hamer, O'Hare. I mean, it's positive, isn't it, that Hamer can come back in. It would be great to see Godden back. I think he just runs his socks off for even 60 minutes and do that. But it's going to be a really tough fixture, and what I think is always awful is that they're the games that I'm sure people out there would have played in, where the team almost are looking around the squad to see who's going to do something, who's going to pick this game up from the depths of nothing and drive it home. And I was looking around, there just wasn't anyone to do that today, Dean.
No, and yeah, like you said, that Stoke game is going to be absolutely massive. It's going to be so tough. I mean, they're a team that hurry, that press, they steal the ball. They've got so much pace and attacking flair going up the pitch. I mean, they beat Blackburn today. Mm-hmm. I honestly, any point against them will be fantastic. Yeah. But that's what makes today so frustrating, because
These are the games you need to pick up. Yeah,
if you come away from there with a 0-0, we'd be happy. You know, this live would be so different. They would have smiles on our faces. We wouldn't look at the negatives as such.
I understand people today that have said, I saw a lot on Twitter, you know, and even in WhatsApp groups, take a draw here, take a draw here. I don't think that that's negative as such. I think it was just, you know, we had the early on injury to Walker, and the way that the game was going, people were like, well, we'll take a draw and move on. But it felt like one that was always could possibly slip away, and it was just, it almost seemed like both teams were sort of playing out really to just see what they could do and get, and Sheffield Wednesday obviously the ones that pushed it a little bit harder, you know. But it could have been, I think, both ways. It was lacklustre from both teams.
The longer that game went on, you could just see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they offered pretty much nothing for the majority of that game, other than the goal. Let's say, maybe the one chance they had in the first half. But
largely here with this one, Dean. If O'Hare got some new boots, it was a really good takedown, wasn't it? That in the middle of the box, it came over and he chested it down and slipped at the vital moment. Sorry, I broke in there. Carry on.
I can't. What was my train of thought? I can't remember what I was going on with.
Probably lacklustre. Probably. No, don't worry.
What was I talking about? I can't remember what I was talking about now.
I've ruined it. But
you have ruined it. Yeah, ask me something else.
No, I will. But
what happened for Christmas dinner? I don't know now, to be honest, because you know we're in shit street. I was going back to Cub for Christmas. Now I can't.
Deliveroo.
Yeah, Nando's on Christmas Day is open.
Well, probably not. You know.
Takeaway only.
It's it's a very difficult one to take, I think, today, just because it feels very lacklustre. It feels like a team that and that's what you were going on to. Stoke doesn't really matter if you get points against the teams that are around you, and we put up a bit of a fight. And you know, you could almost have just rested players against Stoke if you think games are going to come thick or fast, and you think they're going to be difficult. I think that's what you were probably getting around to saying, really, that these are the games that you need to really go for. Stoke's almost a freebie.
Yeah, I do see that point. I still think we can compete with Stoke. I think what lets us down is we've only got 2 or 3 maybe real championship quality players.
Yes.
And the rest are trying to bed in and trying to find their feet and stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of passengers at the moment, and we can't afford to have that.
No.
I mean, it'd be an absolute miracle if we, you know, not a miracle, but our aim is to stay in this division, right?
I've got a bit of a itch in my eye. I'm not crying there, by the way.
Has Boris just come and let you know, is he? Personally?
I mean, if you didn't laugh, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it's just it's like fine margins, right? There's so many fine margins, not just in this game, in this division, and things are not really going our way, and maybe that will turn, but yeah, it's just I just feel down. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting. There's a few people slating me for being negative, but I'm probably the most positive fan there is, if I'm honest. Yeah. And I just feel like today is a massive, massive opportunity that we've just let slip through our hands. We've had a couple of those this season. I'm thinking back to Barnsley.
I was just going to say,
Forest.
You took it right off the tip of my tongue, Barnsley.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing that, you
fine margins.
I think on SkyBluesExtra, I think we're very, very positive. I think we're very supportive of the team, very supportive of players that come in. You know, on podcast you heard me say about Baka that he needs to start showing something to try and get, you know, put his head above the pecking order for Robins. But at the same time, the facts of the matter is Coventry City are in the Championship. Forget low budgets, forget all of that. You know, to quote Warnock, you've got to die for 3 points, and I don't think we did today.
I think you missed a word out there. If you're going to quote somebody, you got to quote them properly, right? But yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, I understand that, but you know, there's a time has come now for players to grab a hold of the shirt and step up and say, "I'm a Championship player. Let's start playing like one." And let's the team start playing like one.
But if they showed, if they played like the period that they had against Watford, if they showed the period that they had against Reading, if they showed that period that they did against QPR, it was that fight, wasn't it? It was that fight.
But glimpses aren't enough.
Yeah.
It needs to be on a consistent basis.
Yeah, but if they showed that in these games, like the Barnsley, it would only take that glimpse, I think, to get it over the line. And it's just a shame.
Against the poor teams, potentially, yes, but we've had opportunities, haven't we? And we haven't taken them, and we haven't shown that we're going to take them. I think a big plus point is Godden is back. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the negative of Walker now looks like he's probably going to be out for a month or so.
Straight swap.
So there's that. We're still one striker down effectively.
Yeah.
We're still looking for what's going to work. Now, hopefully we'll find that Biama and Godden might work.
Da Costa looks a possibility, doesn't he? Da Costa looks like he... And to be honest, I don't think anyone would have any arguments if Dabo was to drop out of contention on perhaps his last two performances.
Yeah.
And I think he just cuts a frustrated figure, and it says to me, is he still fully fit? Is he... Because we know that he's got raw ability, and I think he knows that. And when he can't beat a man, or you can see visibly the frustration, and maybe that's just because he's leggy. It's all come a little bit quick. He was out with quite a tough back injury, wasn't it? And that can be tough to come back from. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him, rested and McCallum, switches over and Giles. And I think George probably agrees with us there. Dabo's looked off
just about to say that
for a couple of months now, and it is, and it's nothing against Dabo. At the end of the day, football is a game of performances, and you're only as good as your last performance. And don't get me wrong, Dabo can dine out on his League One title-winning performances for a long, long time at Coventry City. But right now, the team needs a right winger that can take players on, get to the byline, and cross it in. And he just, for me, hasn't done that in the last 3 weeks. And we can come on here and we can take all the comments about Sheaf this, Ben Wilson that. But the commitment that Ben Wilson has shown in the last couple of weeks, putting his face where it hurts, and the commitment that, I think Sheaf looks like he doesn't get around the pitch, but he's a solid player. We're not calling out sometimes the performances of others. And I think today, I saw it, Max, he dropped his hands like that, and he didn't come and meet the ball. And it was Sheaf that played one into him, and I was waiting to see. But you're a midfielder player. You've got to have your strikers coming to demand the ball off of you. And if they're not doing that, you're just going to ping it over the top, which then they'll moan at because they're forever chasing. So, to me, that set the tone a little bit for me, and it was frustrating to see that, because everyone looked frustrated at their performances, but no one was willing to just grab the game. I
think you make a good point about Ben Sheaf. I think he thinks he's a little bit too good for this. I feel like he's overconfident, and he just needs to rein it in, play the simple stuff, do the basics right, because that's all it takes in that position.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to be a world beater. Just do the basics right, and it probably comes from his growing up with Arsenal.
Well, exactly. It's totally different.
You're taught to be better. That you think you're better than everybody else. That's the way it is. That's how they build. That's how they build confidence.
Energy as well, Dean. I mean, how many times have we watched Arsenal, and it's been the 92nd minute, and they're 1-0 down, and they're still knocking it around the back, and because they just believe so much in that style that they will go up to the pitch as one and score a late equaliser. Whereas, Tony Pulis, he doesn't do that. He just launches the ball as much as possible into the 6-yard box, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
But if you've grown up on that, it's very
that's all you know.
To get it out of you, isn't it?
That's all you know. And that's going to take a lot of work for Ben Sheaf. And at the moment, I don't think we can afford. He's not a passenger, but we can't afford those types of performances, because they're going to let us down at some point. It's just. I'm just a little bit annoyed, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and look, it's only because we want this team to do so well, and let's be honest, like they're absolutely cracking bunch of lads. But one point that I did make today is that the morale we've talked about for 3 seasons now, we've talked about that morale being so good. And even on recent podcasts and when we spoke to players, we can hear, we hear that morale and that team spirit. What sometimes worries me with that sort of thing, where it is such a friendly, tight knit group, is there anyone in that group, and I don't know, so I'm not speaking from any experience, but is there anyone in that group that's going to hand out bollockins? Because if they don't, no one's going to ever really be held accountable to performance like today. And I think in teams that I've been in the past, and in teams I'm sure you've been in, and regardless, work environments that Sky Blues Extra followers have been in, there will be times where bollockins need to be handed out. And today, there was times on that pitch where people needed to be told, and perhaps, if that happens, it just G's people up and gets them going.
There's only one man doing that, and that happened after the goal.
Yeah.
If you look after the goal, the replay from the reverse angle, McFadzean was in Bakayoko's face because he knew that was his man, and he didn't track properly, and he was lethargic in his defending. But that has to happen from minute 1.
Yeah.
That can't happen when we're suddenly 1-0 down at 78 minutes. It has to happen from minute 1, and it's about building that mentality. And we've said it time and time again. We are too cute. We need to be a bit more ruthless, a bit more angry, and a bit more aggressive in our play.
Funny enough, for the goal, it was exactly what we should be doing, wasn't it? Ostergaard took a booking. It's something that I've been screaming at the TV all season for us to do. It's in the middle of the park. But he was in trouble, possibly bearing down, pulled him back. Great. In my book, because I think we've not done that enough, have we? And he did it. And unfortunately, we all know what happened after that. But, we had a chance to reset. We had a chance to defend. We still were at 0-0 when that ball comes in the box for the free kick.
But why are we showing urgency when we're 1-0 down?
Yeah.
We should be showing that urgency earlier in the game. That we started to show a little bit more attacking mentality once that goal had gone in. And I don't know if that was because Clive was getting excited and the way he raises his voice, it sort of installs a bit more confidence into us. But it's just really, really frustrating because there's simple things that could change the whole season. The complexion of the season can change on a sixpence, and a small thing can alter that. And I just feel like we had an opportunity there against, no doubt, the worst side, worse than Wycombe, the worst side in this division, and we've let ourselves down more than anything.
Yeah. An interesting one from Danny here. Did you hear Rotherham could be getting deducted points for cancelling a game just over 1 hour before kick-off? That would be a travesty, wouldn't it? I don't care. I don't care what you say. For football, in a world where nobody knows what they're doing, especially the government, to people starting getting deducted points for calling off games because of COVID, and then getting deducted points, for me it's absolutely ridiculous because no one really knows.
It's happened to somebody else, hasn't it? Someone else in the lower division got a points deduction. Was it Wigan?
Not too sure.
No, I know Wigan happened last season. Somebody got a free. Was it Macclesfield maybe?
Not sure, but I think that is the pits of football if that happens, because what are clubs supposed to do? There's no income at the moment. What are they meant to do?
Yes, it's
obviously you're going to
nonsense.
ride that until the end, until you actually know, and then if you have to call it off. But we're in the midst of a pandemic. Infection rates are going up here, left, right, and centre that we don't even know. The government haven't even got a good grip on it. How are football clubs expected to manage that? So, although it would be great for the Sky Blues with points, it would be a really sad way to see people. It doesn't sit well with me that.
That would hurt if that was to happen to the Sky Blues at some point this season.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the EFL are an absolute awful organisation at the best of times, so it wouldn't surprise me if something like this did happen. But no, it can't. Surely they've got to get their brains together there and say, it's just part and parcel of life at the moment.
Yeah. So, Dean, moving on then to Stoke. I think we've covered more than enough about today's fixture. Disappointing, bit lacklustre at times. Needed some star quality, but some positives of Julian Da Costa perhaps, and Matty Godden, McCallum.
Here's another positive. I can wash this top now because I haven't washed it since we were unbeaten.
Yeah, well, I mean, you certainly can. Hopefully, it's washed, primed, ready for another 8 games.
I'll have the new shirt on, hopefully, for Christmas. Oh, actually, I can't even get the Christmas presents anymore, so it doesn't matter.
No, that's it. We'll all just be living in the same jumpers and clothes now with non-essential shops.
You were doing that before the pandemic, weren't you, Dave?
Thrifty. But no, Stoke, it's... it just sounds tough, doesn't it? Stoke. Former Premiership outfit, sounds tough, doesn't it? But I know that they've obviously had their troubles. How did they get on today, Dean? Or
they beat Blackburn today.
Yeah.
They've only lost once in the last 7 games or something like that.
Right. And what are those results looking like? I think we saw some comments saying that they don't really concede.
They don't really concede, but they don't score a lot either. That's another thing. So it's going to be a tight match. They're aggressive, obviously, like Stoke of old. They're an aggressive side.
Yeah.
They don't tend to keep the ball that often. Their passing stats are not that great, but what they do have are players that can change the game. Your likes of Nick Powell, for instance.
Yeah.
Really, really good player. Is Tom Ince is back now, so there's another name who can change a game. Sam Vokes as well, Welsh international.
Yeah.
They've even got John Obi Mikel. He's there. So this is a tough side. Stephen Fletcher, another name.
Yeah.
Proven championship quality. This is going to be a really, really tough game, but we can beat Stoke.
Yeah.
There are ways to beat them. I would go with what Danny said. I'd play 4 at the back. Give Dabo a rest. I don't think we're probably not going to see a lot of the ball like most games in this division. That's part and parcel of where we are as a team. But there are ways to beat them. And how cov is it to go on this unbeaten run,
of course,
lose a shite game against the bottom of the league, and then go and beat a potential playoff hopeful and potential automatic promotion hopeful. Yeah. That's so cov. That's what we do.
We do look like a team, don't we? We do look like a team recently that doesn't want to lose, I think.
Yeah,
not almost negative, but almost just, almost dining out on the fact of getting a point. Because of that, Robbins was like, if we can get 20 points by this period, then fantastic. And it was, maybe we're just dining out on that a little bit too much. And, when you look at Sheffield Wednesday, where they are in the league, which is probably, maybe a little bit of a false position because of the points deductions, we don't know. But at the same time, we've seen them being battered. They look low on confidence. Every Wednesday supporter I've spoke to said they don't know where a goal's coming from. And they really proved that today, didn't they?
It's fine margins, and our aim is to stay in this division. And if that takes another 20 draws or so, I'd take that. I couldn't care less as long as we stay up. That is so vital this season more than any other season. There's hardly any finance in the club. If you stay up with this season, that is a huge, huge achievement. And then with the potential of fans coming back next season, increased revenues, the parachute payments potentially being scrapped in a way and being dividended out between the teams in league positions, that could be absolutely vital going ahead. So let's just, don't be too negative. Let's just get through this season, but stay in the division.
Yeah, no, of course. Just brought a comment up there from Reese about Jamie Allen. What's your thoughts on Jamie Allen and what role has he got to play for the Sky Blues from now on until the end of the season?
He'll be a bit part player. I don't think he's shown enough quality so far. And it's really disappointing for me because I really, really like Jamie Allen as a player. A couple of seasons ago, he played in the Championship. Mm-hmm. I thought he did really, really well. To be honest, he was quite young and raw at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think the big injury he had at the start of last season really helped. I think that's set him back probably 18 months, if I'm perfectly honest. We might not see the best of him this year. It might be one of those seasons as a transition for him, most of the team.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just too early for that type of player. But like Reece said, he has progressively got better. But at the moment, it's he's not showing that star quality that we need. And I just think he'll be a bit part player for the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see the best of him long term.
Yeah, no, exactly. For me, Jamie Allen works his absolute socks off. He'll always give you 100% in the middle of the park. I suppose it all comes down to confidence, doesn't it? And if you're not playing on a regular basis, then how do you play yourself into confidence? And which is very, very difficult. And I think that's the same for a lot of these players, and perhaps what they've shown coming off the bench. We've talked about Baka, the same really. One part today where he looked really uncomfortable was it nearly went out for a corner.
Putting on his boots, wasn't it?
It was. There was a period where he sort of had the ball in a defensive right back position, and it just looked like a really, he just looked uncomfortable. And I'm sure that with time, all of these players will hopefully progress and increase. But it's unfortunately football doesn't wait around, does it, for people to grow into games, to grow into seasons, and to grow into life in the championship. We need people, which I suppose is a really good time to pull out one player, which Dominic Hyam for me has just been an absolute revelation, I think, in the championship, and could easily be, I think, where people will be knocking on the door for a player like that, because he's looked completely comfortable, hasn't he?
He has, and I was looking at Twitter in the week, and there's a lot of people knocking Dom Hyam. I'm like, what? I'm not really too sure what you expect from this defender. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He had one lapse of concentration in, I think, was it the game against Nottingham Forest, and they scored from that. But that's all I can remember, to be honest. That's his only downfall this season.
Yeah,
he's solid. He's a good aerial threat.
He looks intelligent with it as well. For me, and I must admit, actually, today one of the things, and I completely forgot to raise it earlier, but today one of the things was it was very much pass and watch. As a kid, you're told, aren't you?
Pass and move.
You pass the ball and you follow your pass and move. But today it felt like we went up the pitch in passes, very in stages. It went to O'Hare, he controlled it. It wasn't very quick, was it? It was all very quite laboured, and I think that is what ultimately cost us, because we just wasn't moving the ball. Any team that had it moved the ball a lot quicker today would have been able to get round Sheffield Wednesday very, very easily, wouldn't we? Because we showed it in parts, but just in not enough.
And that's something we've gone away from quite a bit this season. That's something that made us so good last year.
Yeah.
That one touch, the turn, the passing, the move, and we've gone away from that. I don't really know the reasoning behind that. Maybe it's a confidence thing, potentially.
Other players, Dean, that have really impressed you making the transition from League One to the Championship?
Ryan Giles. I think he's been really, really good.
It shows, doesn't it? They've secured a contract for him. They've obviously kept tabs on him and see that he's got a bright future. Yeah,
really. I mean, it's great news for him. Bad news for us if the potential of us wanting to potentially sign him. So that's not going to happen. But yeah, he's one, and probably the biggest sort of standout for me, and I didn't expect it, is Carl McFadzean.
Yeah.
We all chatted at the start of the year he would be the one that would drop out. If we're going to play three, it'd be Ostergaard, Rose and Hyam. But I think Carl McFadzean has been an absolute revelation this season. Okay.
When you look at the attributes, though, Dean, actually, he has everything that you need, really, to be a good Championship, because he's very physical.
Yeah.
He's very brave. We know he's got a very good football brain. Okay, the legs don't always get him where he wants to go as quick as he wants to perhaps get there, but he does have all the attributes of a really good defender, doesn't he? And that's why in the Championship perhaps he doesn't take that many unnecessary risks for me. He just does what he has to do.
I think probably the only negative for me is that he's error prone.
Yeah, and his distribution at times. Perhaps.
Yeah, but distribution.
Really
he doesn't have not in that centre, not in the centre of the free. The distribution should be from either side, really.
Yeah.
He's there to be the anchor, play the balls out wide, and then for Heim and Ostergaard, then they're the ones that should be making those passes in the middle of the pitch. But yeah, it's just the slight errors with him, but a fantastic season so far. It's really frustrating because I still feel as a back unit, a defensive unit, we've been pretty solid. What annoys me is how many goals we concede, and I'm thinking, well, we do look solid, but why are we still letting in so many goals? And then you come back to the individual errors, and that's where our downfall has been for the majority of this season.
Yeah.
And everyone's got an error in them. We're not going to begrudge people of an error, but it's when you constantly make them. And that's something I think really lets Carl McFadzean down from being a lower championship player to the higher echelons of the championship. I don't think he's not Premiership bound, of course. I wouldn't say that, but I still think he could play at a higher level in the championship for sure.
Yeah.
But we are getting the best out of him so far.
Yeah, no, and a real leader on the pitch, and great for especially when you've got such a young changing room to have those senior pros in there, and I'm sure we've heard a lot about the job that he's done. It wasn't the result that we wanted today, but I think ultimately it wasn't the performance that we wanted to see, regardless of the points of which way they went. It was the performance for me that wasn't quite there. But we'll move on to Stoke. A difficult game. It's on Boxing Day, so the good news is that everyone should be off, hopefully, and watching that and able to watch that game. So that's great, and it will be a nice little stopgap between, obviously, Christmas and the New Year. And we'll hope for a better performance than we saw today. The positives with perhaps Godden coming back in. We've already mentioned that Julian Costa looks a player. Giles could possibly come back in for a start on perhaps what he even did today, but especially what he's done for the rest of the season. And we go again, Dean.
We go again. Play up Sky Blues.